Welcome to the introduction on a short series of videos on functional training exercises for the upcoming academy. So the basis of this is to give you some information on exercises that you can do to build your strength, your aerobic conditioning, your flexibility, your form, and your stability, basically. Because on the fire ground, we have multiple tasks that we pursue, and we use a lot of muscles that we're not used to using. So these series of short videos will allow you to do things around your house or in the gym or at the station of your choosing. And we'll show you variations on each. Just remember, try to use good form, and we'll teach you little form moves. Always stay hydrated. Always warm up before you start, because you don't want to do anything aggressive when you're cold. And have fun with it. Let's get started. So this video is on aerobic conditioning. Basically on the fire ground, and when we're doing medical calls too, it's mostly about short periods of high strenuous work. And you need aerobic conditioning for that. Now, there's a couple of different ways we can approach this, but the easiest way, of course, since we live in Genesee and we have all these beautiful roads and trails, especially with a lot of the grades and hills that we have, is to do a program that involves either walking or running. One of the things I would like to recommend is kind of do sprint walk workouts, anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes long. Remember, always warm up before you do something like this. So every exercise in this program is in a conservative but progressive manner. So if you're not a runner to begin with, don't start out running. If you're a walker, you start out walking. But if you're a walker, I want you to do fast walk. So what we're going to do, be it walking or running to begin with, after you warm up for a good 3 to 5 minutes, is you want to do evolutions of 2 minutes, doing it at a fairly good clip, then 2 minutes off. So let's say if I was running, I could maybe be going down the road. I'll say from this stop sign to that stop sign, I will set a very aggressive pace. And then after that, from that stop sign to that next one, I'll just either do a light jog or a walk as a cool down. And I repeat this step. And the next one I do is 3 minutes long on, 3 minutes off, and then 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. So I'm not at such a pace I'm going anaerobic, but I'm right near that threshold where I can do 2, 3, or 5 minutes and be fairly winded, and then have to go into recovery. And you can repeat that 2 or 3 times over a course of anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. Then on your off days, if you want to go for your normal walk or your normal run, that builds up your long distance endurance, that's good too. But if you only do long distance, you'll gas out on these short bursts that we need on the fire ground. In this segment, what we're going to do is work on our lower body strength. On the fire ground, we spend a lot of time carrying, and also, just like I mentioned before on the medical calls, we do a lot of stair work in people's residential houses and commercial buildings. And on the fire ground, we do a lot of uneven ground because we're in a wildland urban interface here. So most of the equipment we carry tends to be of different weights. So we're not like we're in the gym with 2 45-pounders or 2 15-pounders. We'll have 20 pounds on one side and another 30 pounds on the other, per se. So I gathered some things from our department here. I have a couple buckets. They have liquid in them. These happen to be foam buckets, but one bucket's about 20 pounds, one bucket's about 40 pounds. So the second thing we have is some hose. And these are hose packs. When we're on the fire ground, we carry what they call high-rise packs or hoses on our shoulders. So we can represent with that. And we do a lot of hose dragging and pulling and drags on the fire ground too. So what I got out from our area is a piece of metal. It's one of our weights from our weight room. But this could be a bag of sand at your house. It could be, anything that has a bit of weight to it, and a rope to drag it by. So these are the things that we're going to be working with, and just use your imagination, and there's always going to be something around the house. And if you want to, you can translate all this into the gym too. So why don't we get started on this? So this is the farmer's carry. Basically just carrying something with your straight arms. In this bucket, 40 pounds. In this one, 20 pounds. So all I'm going to do is pick them up, and to have good form, I want to bend at the knees, I want everything close to me. Every time you're going to lift from ground level up, you don't want to do long lever reaches. You'll have things close, straight back, use your knees, get the weights as close to you as possible. And then you won't blow your backs out. So what I'm going to do is just pick this up, and I'm going to do a series of maybe 2 or 3 carries over 100 yards. And I'm going to do a short here. But the basic concept is I carry it, put it down, I turn around, I switch the weights to the opposite side, and I repeat 4 or 5 times, or whatever is most comfortable for me at that time. You always are conservative, and you always work up to longer distances and greater weights. Now, if I want to make this more difficult, then I'll add either uneven ground or stairs to it. So I come up, I pick up properly, stairs, uneven ground, and repeat. So this differs from the farmer's carry, as this is a lift from ground level to the shoulder. We do this with hose loads, we do this with ladders, we do this with a lot of different types of equipment. So if it's very heavy, you can go down to one knee, get it? And I'm just using the bucket again. Come up, come across, and then come up that way. Or if you have a hose load, you can borrow one of these, but they're both the same. Depends on what you have around and where you're at, right? You got to be close, so you tip up, come underneath, come down, and rise. And basically we're going to do the same thing that we did with the farmer's carry, but we're going to do it with the upper body carry. And just use flat surfaces, and not so flat surfaces. All done with good form. When you get in trouble is by doing bad form for lifts. Straight leg bending, like a deadlift in the gym, is very hard, especially when you're twisting. So if I came up, I went like this, I twisted and came over, that's a very good way to hurt your back. So remember, if you cannot do a good clean up to the shoulder, get as close as possible, you can do a good clean up to the shoulder this way, or if it's too heavy for that, you can go down to one knee, bring it close, transfer it, and then go straight up from there. Same way, putting it down. Need to. And remember, you can always ask for help. No one's a hero in this. We're a team. So if you have something that you believe is too heavy for you, always ask a team member to help you with it, because you're there to help others. You're not there to be a victim yourself. This is kind of an extension of what we were doing when we were doing the carryings before. But instead, that was more about transition of lifting and putting down in good form while you're working with the material. This is more just about lower body strength. So you could do this on stairs, you can do this on a bench, where you do a step up compared to running stairs up or down or walking stairs up and down. You can do it with weight or without weight. But a simple step up is to get close to your step, come up, step down. And you can do maybe 30 or 40 reps if you want, and then switch to the opposite side so you have a different lead. So step up, a step down, and if you're feeling adventurous and you have the strength for it, but a little bit more advanced, you can do drop ups. This segment of lower body strength is going to include just a walking lunge and the duck walk. A walking lunge is very simple. All you do is go as far down as you can go, come up, go far down as you can go, come up. For the duck walk, it's kind of an extension of that, where you keep your back straight and go down, and you just basically just work the glutes and the quads. And after a while, you'll be using my name in vain. In this section, we're going to do 2 basic crawls. The reason why we crawl is because if we're actually in a structural fire, the visibility is much better at the ground. So for us to progress, either hose or search, we have to be very low to the floor. And we gotta get our muscles used to this. So the first one is a basic one, which is just to kind of get your muscles ready. You can do it on your knees to begin with, but if you pick your knees up, and what you do is you just go different directions to work all your different muscle groups. But the problem with this, even though it builds strength, for you to see, you have to look up. And that's very difficult in this type of position. So the actual fireman's crawl, if you're pulling a hose or you're doing a search and rescue with a tool like a halligate or axe, you keep one knee up in front, one knee back. You carry your hose with this side, you use your hand for support on the other, and you actually scoot. And you just reverse it. And I highly recommend having some long pants on and being on a surface that's not too rough, like this polished concrete, or maybe a rug or so, or out in the grass. In this section, we're going to start on upper body strength. We talked a little bit about carrying and lifting, but now what we're going to do is just build the upper body so we can transfer tools to the structure, apparatus, and beyond. So the first thing we're going to do is called the hose whip. So this can be done. All you need is a place to anchor your hose or rope to. This builds upper body strength. Make sure that when you do this, you pace yourself because it's difficult. You can come down to the station, grab a piece of hose, just ask any of the people there to get a piece of used hose off a dug shelf and use that instead of new hose or apparatus hose. Okay? So you start by just doing some basic flips, lean back a little bit, and then you can slip them out. It's almost like jump rope for the upper body. So this exercise we're about to do is what would happen if we're doing pulling hose, especially within a structure or such. You have one of your teammates feeding you hose, you're at a pinch point like a corner, and you are moving hose past the pinch point so that you can progress it into the structure or into the wildland area. So to do this, I've taken a rope that will represent my hose. It's hooked up to a weight with a little bit more weight on it. And because we're on a polished floor, I put a little cardboard underneath it so I wouldn't scratch up the floor with the weight. If you were doing this out in the grass, you probably want to do it with a little bit less weight than we have here. I have a 45-pounder and about 40 pounds on top of it. If I was doing it in the grass, I'd probably just do the 45-pounder. And of course, it depends on your own arm strength. You might be doing it lighter or heavier than I. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come over here, stabilize myself on one knee. I'm going to use an overhand pull, and this is a very similar process that we use for both hose and for raising ladders. And you can also do an underhand pull, which is also another one that's more used with just pulling hose, but not raising ladders. In this one, we're going to do basic, different series of drags. It's very common to, when you're especially moving a patient out of a building that is compromised, to get them out quickly, and drags with your team are the easiest way to do it. So you can do 2 or 3 different upright drags. You can do a backward drag. You can do a forward drag. And you can also do, if you're very close, you can come up underneath the shoulders of the person and just carry that way, protecting the head and such. But if it's real smoky and visibility is very bad, you may not have the option of standing upright. So in this case, you do crawl drags. So basically all you do is you put it over your shoulder so it crosses the chest, and you do a basic crawl. or you can do the fireman crawl. In this segment of upper body strength, we're going to just cover the basic push-up and pull-up, the variations of it that you can do around your house, business, or in the gym. In general, this is your basic push-up right here. And you want to go down as far as you can. If you want to make it more difficult, you can spread arms away from shoulder level. Bring them close. Or stagger them out. All makes this push-up more difficult. The second variation of making a push-up difficult is by having your back of your body higher than the front of the body. So if I use this, I come around, place the leg up. And if you do this on a Theraball, it's even that much harder. Come up. You can do 2 feet. You can do 1 foot. And you can vary hand position all at the same time. But in reality, as a suggestion, I will keep the hands right below the shoulders because that's going to be your most safe position for the shoulder girdle itself. As you get better and better at these, if you want to play a little bit more around with hand position, you certainly can. But placing your feet up above your shoulders are certainly going to make it more difficult, even with the hand positions right underneath the shoulders. The second part is going to be your pull-ups. So you can do 2 different grips. You do your normal pull-up grip, and your pull-up grip, and you just grab the edge, get right underneath it, and pull up. Now, if you hold it at the top for a count of 5, that will build your endurance to a greater degree. And the other way you can do is turn and do an inverted grip. Do not hit your head on the bumper of your brush truck. And that itself will help work your core, it'll help work your biceps, your triceps to a much greater degree than if you're just at the gym, just doing regular curls and extensions. In summary, the workout I just showed you is just a variation of the 4 basics of good musculoskeletal conditioning: strength, aerobic, flexibility, and stability. Some exercises are a little bit more heavy than others. Like your aerobic, your running certainly going to be more heavy than, let's say, doing your push-ups. But the push-ups will be more strength. So I did not give you any particular numbers of reps that you're supposed to do or number of sets you're supposed to do. That's because everybody's going to be a little bit different in how they kind of approach it. You want to listen to your body. If your body tells you that you're having difficulty, let's say in breathing, or you start getting lightheaded, or you feel something having pain wrapped up where you want to protect it, you have to stop the exercise. And it's never a bad thing to always ask your doctor before you do any exercise program if you're fit for it. I know that if you applied to Genesee, you already went through a physical, and you should be able to start in a very conservative fashion and build up and be progressive. And that's just a smart way to approach this. If you have any questions, I'm Doug, you can come to the station. We have a number of different people who work out on a regular basis, and we'd be happy to help you with both technique, philosophy, and form. Be safe, don't do too much. We're going to be working as a team when we get together. We'll play as a team, we'll train as a team, and we really look forward to seeing you guys. And thank you so much for joining Genesee.